What we're looking at here is a Moss 1200 watt heater fan. And you might notice that it's making some crackling noises right now because it's actually cooling down right now, because I've had it running before this video because I want to be able to show how hot it gets. And as it heats up and as it cools down, it makes a lot of crackling noises. For whatever reason, the heating elements like to do that. But I found 2 of these fans new in a box on Facebook Marketplace. As you can see, this thing is brand new. It's got fins on each blade arm to push air up into the motor to help it stay cool, I guess, when it runs. I guess that's what that's for. I don't know if it's to help cool the motor or to help distribute the heat, or maybe it's both. It's got these nice stencil blades. It's got a huge spinner motor in that thing. I guess that's cast iron, I believe. And if you look inside of the motor housing, it's kind of hard to see, but you just kind of have to look past that screen there. There are 3 elements that run this way. Those are the heating elements. And then behind those heating elements are those little fins in there, which is like a squirrel cage blower thing mounted to the motor to help push the heat outside of the side band when it runs. So that's pretty cool. This is 3-speed, reversible, and it has this tassel. Came with this tassel. And as you can see, that is the heater switch. So if you flick it to the 800 watt setting, it engages 2 out of 3 of the heating elements in there. And if you flick it over to the 1200 watt setting, it engages all 3 heating elements. So I put my amp clamp on this thing and it draws about 11.2 amps. And that's with no light kit, on high speed, on 1200 watt heater setting. And the cool thing about this, I find this kind of neat. Right now the pull chain switch is set to off, but if you turn the heater on, it automatically turns on to low speed. So I think that's pretty cool. So we're gonna set this to low, and we're gonna put it on a 1200 watt heater setting. Now I've seen a handful of videos of these things online, and there's one thing I really don't like about those videos, and that is nobody demonstrates the heater. And the reasoning is because you can't feel through a video how hot it gets. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it with the thermal laser gun here. Which I will do that shortly, towards the end. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to show the box and the paperwork that this fan came with. Pretty average low speed. Since it's been running a while, and you stand under the fan, you do feel the heat coming out of it. And it produces quite a bit of heat. Here's medium. Also, a lot of people say these things are a gimmick, which in my eyes, they're not a gimmick. And the reason people call them a gimmick is, I guess, because of how much power they draw. I mean, a typical bedroom circuit breaker, bedroom circuit is like 15 amps. And this thing draws over 11 amps, so that draws a lot of power. But as far as performance goes, I would say they're not a gimmick, because this thing will heat up a room no problem. I had this thing running in my bedroom for a long time, and it was as if I had the space heater on. It heated up the entire room, and it made it really hot in the room. You mainly feel the heat right here. You don't really feel it so much out here. Let's put it on high speed. On high speed, this thing flies. So this would in theory be off, but the heater switch is on, so it's on low. I'm gonna let it go down to speed so that way I can show how hot the heating element is. And the longer it runs, the hotter you can feel the heat on the bottom. And one more thing is, what I find really weird is that when I got this fan new in the box, unwrapped it, and I noticed that the screws that hold the motor together, not the motor housing, but the actual spinner motor inside, the screws that hold it together were almost completely out. Like the screws were almost completely sticking out, completely loose. So like if the fan were to run for a little bit longer and those screws were to turn a few more times, they would have come out. So I find that really strange. So I had to take the whole housing apart and tighten all those screws. That is too hot to touch. If I touch that, I'll burn myself. $309. Keeps jumping back. I'm trying my best to get it right on the heating element, which can be kind of tricky. This thing's kind of all over the place. But you get the idea. That thing was showing like anywhere from 250 to 300 degrees, which is quite hot. And again, it's crackling a little bit as it cools down. But that, I'm not touching that. If I were to touch that, I'd burn myself because that is super hot. But let's go check out that paperwork in the box for this thing. This is the paperwork that came with the fan. Just a warning there. Like all heaters, this unit may smoke at first. Allow 30 to 60 minute warm-up period. These are the instructions. Just some basic assembly and installation instructions. operating instructions, parts list. And that's pretty much it. As far as a box, since I got 2 of these, I have 2 boxes. But here they are. This one got chewed up a little bit there. But yep, there are the boxes. There's the other side. And that's the same. And that one I have not unboxed yet. So I'll be doing that shortly. But yeah, that's about all I have for the Moss 1200 watt heater fan.